Coming up tonight on News Center Now, the father of a girl missing for 33 years believes he's the closest he's ever been to finding her. We'll explain.
And it's been growing all winter long. Today is Harvest Day for Maine kelp. How this is part of a more than $1 million federal project.
Beers like Budweiser here have been around for a long time, but craft beer, that's something else. That's relatively new, and it's really cool. Tonight, the rise of craft beer in Portland in part 3 of our series, Portland Reborn. This is News Center Now.
And good evening, and thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Lee Nelson.
And I'm Lindsay Mills. It's now been 33 years since a woman from Jay went missing, and her family is searching for answers. Kimberly Moreau disappeared on May 10th, 1986, when she was 17 years old. That night, she had an argument with her boyfriend and canceled their plans to go to the Jay High School prom. Instead, she went out with a friend and met up with 2 men who were acquaintances. She was last seen getting into a white Pontiac Trans Am. Kim was declared legally deceased in 1993.
All right, Chris Costas here now joining us. Police apparently say this is one of their more active cases, Chris.
Yeah, Lee and Lindsay, that's correct. State police could not tell us if they're any closer to finding Kim, but they did say that this is one of the cases that gets the most tips out of any of their 30 missing persons cases. Kim's father, Richard Moreau, says he's working on a new tip, and he believes he's the closest he's ever been to finding his daughter.
But 33 years, you'd think by now somebody would have came up and said something.
Richard Moreau is still waiting for that one crucial tip that leads him to his daughter, Kim. He says the people who know where she is refuse to speak up.
How they can live with it, it's beyond me. I don't know.
These posters around the towns of Livermore and Jay beg anyone with information to come forward. Posters that Richard puts up every spring, never losing hope.
I'll continue doing it until the day that I can't do it.
State police say they continually receive 4 to 5 tips in a 6-month span on Kim's case.
In comparison to other unsolved homicides or missing persons cases, that's quite a lot.
Now Richard is working on a new tip, one that state police would not speak about in detail, but that Richard believes is credible.
Came from a person dying. I'll say that much.
Do you feel this is the closest you've ever been to finding her?
Yes,
Why?
because of the information we got and some of the things that's coming out. I think that it could possibly end the very next time we go down.
I think any parent would be optimistic, obviously, when they get a piece of information, and we understand that he is anxious for this to be resolved and to find his daughter. We just have to take the information and weigh it against what we already know and see if it makes sense.
Richard says he does not care about a criminal case, just bringing his daughter home.
What will it bring me? Will it ever take away one tear? Will it ever take away 1 minute's sleep that I lost? Will it take any of the hurt away from us? No, it won't.
Richard is asking anybody with any information on this case to contact either him or the state police. And Lee and Lindsay, he was very careful about disclosing how much information he has in this case because he really, really hopes that this is the year they'll find her.
Yeah, it's not a happy ending that he's hoping for, but at least a little satisfaction, a little closure. Remember talking to him many, many years ago about this too. It's incredible how long it's gone on. Yeah. All right, Chris, thank you very much.
To the weather we go. A lot of people anticipating the holiday weekend upcoming and seeing if maybe anything's changed since yesterday, Keith.
Change for the better, hopefully.
Why am I showing you the 7-day right now? Oh, geez, I'm giving
Spoiler.
it all away. Hold on. Let me go backwards. I wasn't prepared. We're on this temporary setup here. All right, here we go. Here we go. I'm sorry. Yeah, today was pretty nice before we get to the weekend. Temperatures in the upper 60s in Portland and 67, 68 in Sanford. A little bit cooler over northern areas where there are a few more clouds, but most of us did see a lot of sun today, and that's how we're kind of ending the day as well. Finally get those winds to settle. It took a while because they were still gusty before noon today, gusting to 25, 30 miles an hour. Finally, now they're down to just sporadic gusts of 20 miles an hour. So in a lot of cases, no gusts being reported, which is how you want to see it. Also, notice the sea breeze has kicked in here. The winds have turned out of the southeast, which is a telltale sign that you have that marine influence moving inland. There's a look at the satellite. A few high, thin clouds out there. That's about it. Most of us, again, clear through the rest of today. Here's our next storm system. That will move in on Thursday night and into Friday, guys. We will talk about the weekend. I think the key here is going to be planning it for the best parts. So you want to be outside during the best parts of it. We'll kind of talk about that in a few minutes.
Good deal.
Sounds good, Keith. Thank you, sir. See you with more in a bit. In the news off the coast of Biddeford, there is a $1 million research project happening to see if seaweed can help the entire country improve its energy security and economic competitiveness.
It's part of a 3-year project, and today was harvest day when researchers at UNE collect the kelp they've been growing all winter long.
The great crisis on this planet with 10 billion people is going to be food, energy, water, waste, and shelter.
Barry Costa-Pierce and his team of researchers at the University of New England have high hopes for these long brown ribbons of seaweed.
Look at these.
Sugar kelp, as it's called, grows in salt water throughout the winter months, requires very little light and no fertilizer.
Rich in minerals and vitamins, and we get like 15, 18, 20 pounds per foot of line.
Researchers believe seaweed could someday be used as a major source of food, feedstock, even biofuel, all while not competing with precious land on farms.
We always hear that Maine has this incredibly vast coastline, 3,500 miles of coastline. You'd think we can have seaweed farms all over the place in fairly protected areas. But actually, inshore Gulf of Maine is a really busy place, right? We have shipping lanes, we have recreational boaters, we have lobstermen. So there's only so many places where you can tuck a seaweed farm inside of an island and have a nice protected place to be.
UNE researchers, with help from the Maine Marine Composites, an ocean engineering company, are trying to find a secure, sustainable way to farm kelp in a larger capacity in the open ocean.
Our goal is to develop numerical models to predict how things like kelp farms respond to storms, so that we can design them better and more economically.
It's all part of a 3-year program funded by the Department of Energy and its $1.3 million research grant.
The seaweed revolution could be just as important as any agricultural revolution we've developed on this planet.
And shout out to journalist John Blenda, photojournalist who accompanied me. He's standing right over here. He actually took some fresh bites right on the boat today, and he enjoyed it.
And he's still alive and
he's
kicking.
Still here, yeah.
Excellent. All right,
so,
well,
very good. Thanks, John.
Double high five because he helped me with my Portland Reborn. Helped me
I know.
more than that. So.
He's something else, that's for sure.
Day.
Well, speaking of all things aquaculture, indoor salmon farming has quickly become one of the most talked about industries in the state.
Yeah, Sean Stackhouse joins us now with some details on how the Bucksport proposed facility there is one step closer to construction. Sean, good evening.
Hey, Lee and Lindsay, that's right. Whole Oceans has finalized its purchase of part of the former Verso paper mill property in Bucksport. The land-based salmon farming company has been working with the town for nearly 3 years. This purchase was the final step before construction. Whole Oceans has completed its application and permitting process and now is moving toward setting a date to begin construction. It will be building a facility capable of raising roughly 20,000 metric tons of Atlantic salmon. But it's certainly going to be some time before any Mainers see any of that salmon, but it's a step in the right direction for both the company and Bucksport.
All right, Sean, one question that comes to mind is, are there going to be some new jobs created here, and if so, how many?
Well, jobs are always a question, and what I have learned so far is it's certainly not going to have as many as the former Verso paper mill. But when the Whole Oceans facility does open, it will be adding 50 jobs as part of its first phase. And the company's president, Jason Mitchell, tells me he hopes it will rise to 125 once operation is well underway. And I'll have much more on this project coming up tonight on News Center at 6. Lee and Lindsay.
All right, John, thank you very much. Coming up a little bit later, I'm going to have part 3 of my Portland Reborn series. We turn our attention to craft beer this evening.
Very exciting. And next, how do you feel about making Maine a sanctuary state? And what exactly does that phrase mean? We've been hearing it so much lately. We'll discuss. Well, do you think that Maine should become a sanctuary state? That's the question we've been asking on our Pulse poll all day today, and a lot of viewers have been voicing what they think.
Yeah, that is also a question Maine lawmakers are thinking about, too. Public was able to weigh in today on 2 bills that address how Maine law enforcement cooperates with federal immigration authorities. Now, one of the bills would make Maine a sanctuary state, so it would specifically prohibit law enforcement officials in Maine from asking anybody about their immigration status. It would also prohibit officials from detaining undocumented immigrants under hold requests by federal agencies. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, there are already 8 sanctuary states. Vermont's one, Massachusetts is as well. We have received hundreds of comments about these bills on our social media sites all throughout the day.
And here's a look at what a few of you are saying tonight. Nancy Mason says, we can't feed our residents. How can we feed someone else's? Mary Ellen Dunn has a different opinion. She says, let's hope this passes. When you dig deeper than the headlines, you realize it is the right thing to do. And Colleen says this should not even be a consideration for our state, as we can barely afford to take care of our own. You can let us know what you think. The conversation's not over. Join us right now on Facebook, Twitter, wherever really. We'll find you.
And you can weigh in on pulse.newscentermaine.com as well. Don Kerrigan's going to have a live report on this story coming up in the next half hour as well.
All right, there is still a lot more to come tonight on News Center Now.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice spring day out there. Let's keep this thing rolling, Keith.
What? Oh, you do? Try squats. As we continue our look at the hospitality boom in the city of Portland, we turn our attention tonight to beer, and in particular craft beer. According to the Maine Brewers Guild, craft beer contributes $260 million to Maine's economy.
Yeah, not too shabby, right? There are more than 100 breweries in the state of Maine. About 20 of them are in Portland, and that makes the city #1 in the country in terms of microbreweries per capita. So I hope you're thirsty, because here's part 3 of Portland Reborn. We're calling it I Pledge Allegiance to My Beer.
It's a Saturday morning in March, and just like every other Saturday, there's a line outside of Bissell Brothers Brewing at Thompson's Point in Portland.
Beautiful day. Can't complain.
This morning, they're releasing their latest batch of Swish. That's an IPA, an India Pale Ale.
Hey guys, who's here from out of state?
Seamus Carey and his cousin drove all the way up from Everett, Massachusetts, just to get a good spot in line.
So what in the world are you doing driving that far just to stand in line for beer?
Have you ever had Swish?
Actually, I have.
Yeah. Is it worth it?
I guess so, but
Yeah.
that's up to you, because you're standing here.
Yeah. Worth it for me, man.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Have you done this before, or is this the first time you've stood in line?
Not the first time. Not the first time. Won't be the last either.
Quite a few of these people are from out of state, and they don't seem to mind waiting at all.
Do your friends back in Mass understand this, or did they think you're insane?
Most of them understand it, but, you know, there's a good portion that think I'm insane.
Friends, countrymen, countrywomen. How's the rest of your night, Nick? All right, guys, let's open these doors.
In fact, they're downright giddy, because when that tap room opens at 11, they are guaranteed their favorite beer.
Gentlemen, gentleladies, come on in, guys.
It's quite a bit more expensive than your basic suds from one of the big industrial producers, but that doesn't seem to be an issue.
Long way from Pennsylvania. Good to have you, man. Welcome.
Hi, case of Swish.
You got it.
Case of Swish.
Can I get a case of Swish? Case of Swish. There's that part of the game. I'll give you a case. 4-pack of Umbra. Check. 108.81. All right, my friends. You're golden. Have a great one. Enjoy the rest of your day.
It was just 5 years ago when Peter Bissell and his brother Noah opened up their first location, and like so many other local breweries, their growth has been meteoric. Why? Well, several reasons. Like small restaurants, it's relatively cheap to get started, and like restaurants, they're using local ingredients, so farm to flask. And a huge part of the popularity of craft beer is that the whole scene is so undeniably cool. Drinkers don't just want to quench their thirst, they want an experience.
Once people began to see that what was available for most of this past century wasn't the limit as to what this beverage could be flavor-wise and experience-wise, I think that opened the floodgates for sort of the cultural impact it has now. It started with the beer. It's all still about the beer.
And tasting rooms like this one add to that experience, because the beer is brewed right here. And unlike most bartenders in regular bars, these folks know absolutely everything about their product.
That's some beautiful bean footage right there.
So you learn while you drink. A great combo. They make and can IPAs and lagers here, stouts and wheats and sours. Many of their brews have quite a bit more alcohol in them than, say, a can of Budweiser. There's cool packaging and a cool logo, too. They are looking for and getting brand loyalty. You know, you'll only drink Swish from Bissell, like you'll only wear a swoosh from Nike. Everyone has tasting rooms, Rising Tide, Austin Street, Liquid Riot, Sea Dog, and they're served in bars too. And I challenge you to find a bar in Portland that does not serve Allagash, one of the granddaddies of the local craft brew scene. But back to Bissell. Peter says he welcomes the competition because it brings more people to Portland, and because he thinks it'll force his people to keep working harder to improve their product. He's thrilled to be riding and fueling the craft beer wave in Portland, and he tips his hat to the people who got the ball rolling almost 30 years ago.
To think that we've helped shape that as much as we as one company can, but you know, this is a group effort, and we were sitting on the shoulders of giants.
Among those giants, Bruce Forsley of Shipyard Brewing.
The original beer was designed to appeal to the Canadian tourists.
Interesting.
Hence the name Shipyard Export, our flagship brand.
We'll visit with him tomorrow.
Yeah, the Forsleys are heavyweights in the beer industry in Maine for sure. Tomorrow night we're going to hear about their first time days in the business, and we'll hear the unusual direction they are taking their company as well.
Very cool. Looking forward to that.
More beer tomorrow night.
I know. Perfect beer weather.
It's crazy how people have gotten so into microbreweries that they think that Shipyard's too big. I've heard people say that.
I have
people say, "Oh, Shipyard, like it's
well,
Miller."
you know,
like
they're just they were one of the first. They've been around for about 25 years.
Yeah.
So they're not as new, but they're still doing really, really well.
Shout out to our friends in Holden who used to send us Shipyard Melonhead in the mail when we were living in the Midwest because we couldn't find it out there.
Is that legal or?
I mean, it was glassware.
Probably not legal. All right, let's have a look at.
That's a news story for another day.
Yeah. Like, can you ship alcohol? I don't actually know the answer to that.
I think you can. I think you can.
You think you can just recreationally send people?
Well, they have all those wine clubs, you know.
But they have probably have a license to do it, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's fine. It's all good. All right, 67 in Portland for a high today. 68. What's the name of your friends again?
John Smith, I believe
First
it was.
and last. 64 in Bangor, 63 in Millinocket. Really nice. The winds did settle down after being a little gusty through the first half of the day. Now just a few sporadic gusts of 25 miles an hour, which is kind of something you'll see on almost any given day in Maine. So back to normal as far as the winds. And the satellite looks good too. It was a nice sunny day, a couple of high thin clouds you can see racing in from the west there, but those aren't going to really dampen the next few hours of daylight all the way to sunset. So here's a warm front. This is going to move through tomorrow late afternoon through tomorrow night. There'll be some rain involved with that, and then some more showers on Friday. So we're going to enter on Thursday night, Friday, our most unsettled part of this week. The good news is the week was so settled that's not really saying all that much. This was definitely our best week, probably really since March, when we had a nice stretch at the beginning of March. Hour by hour forecast showing you tomorrow morning it's partly cloudy, and I think that's kind of how tomorrow plays out. Maybe some burst of sun in the middle of the day, and by the afternoon we're clouded up. A couple of showers start rolling in around or just before sunset, and then it's raining overnight Thursday night into Friday, and a couple of heavy downpours. A good possibility, maybe even a rumble of thunder here on Friday morning. And then Friday's just kind of a convective day, so a lot of clouds, a lot of showers around, not a ton of total rain though in that forecast. Saturday morning through the middle of the day, Saturday looks great. Clouds increase on Saturday afternoon. It rains overnight Saturday and then clears out on Sunday. Sunday is warmer with a couple of pop-up showers and thunderstorms on Sunday afternoon. And then it looks like Monday is probably the driest day of the stretch. So here's a better way to look at it. The old bar graph. Best chance of rain is Friday, and then Saturday. Now, this is a little deceiving only because there's no Saturday night category. If there were, it will rain Saturday night. Sunday's just pop-up showers, 50-50 chance there. Monday at this point looks dry. So, again, not bad. Should be some low 70s around through Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. What is kind of interesting about it is I feel that as an aggregate, this will be a nice weekend. It's kind of hard to tell what part of it will be the absolute best part. Usually you can nail that down, but because of the convective nature of those showers on Sunday could be nice, it's gonna be mild, but if you catch a shower, you're not gonna be feeling it. So right now, Monday is my favorite of the 3 days, but they all look pretty good.
Okay.
Look good.
Yeah, I was worried about that whole convective thing too.
The convective.
Very worried about
the convected oven. I have a story about that later. We don't have time for it though.
All right. Sounds good, Keith. Sounds good. Thank you very much. So, coming up tonight at 5:30, we have a lot coming up. Yet another effort to tax Poland Spring Water Company for the water that they extract in Maine, but that has failed in the legislature. We've got some details coming up.
And by chance, a UMaine student discovers a way to take something we have lots of in Maine and turn it into fuel. Jet fuel. We'll look at the exciting possibilities and what it could mean for our state. That's all ahead in the next half hour.
Sounds like a neat story for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're right back.
All right, today's Brain Drops is actually, it's kind of behind the season, but we just got this question yesterday, and I want to remind people you can email me with questions, comments, concerns. Let's have a look at it. Basically, what it's asking is, could someone throw up a graphic relating to the winter's temperatures, those of the past few years? And the subject was heating. He was saying it felt like it cost a lot to heat last winter. Okay, so let's go to the graphs, shall we? And this is the graph of the winters starting in the 1940s, and the last year there's on the right. And so obviously there's an upward trend, but the last year was actually just about average. It wasn't crazy above or below. The better measure, though, of heating costs is the next graph. Heating degree days is something that that utility companies use. So it's a baseline of a temperature of 65. What is it going to take to keep your house that temperature? And again, last year was just about average, just a tad bit above there at the end. So the short answer is our winters are overall getting warmer and whatnot. But we did have a brutal snap last winter. And I think that's what people remember. And let's not talk about winter again until...
Says the ski lover.
Until at least November.
Okay, that's right.
Deal.
One season at a time.
Yeah.
All right. A lot more coming up on News Center Maine at 5:30, and it starts right now.